To work quickly and effectively, you'll want to configure Live's browser to support how you like to work. So I've got a default set open if you want to follow along on your own computer. And let's talk about the collections area at the top of the sidebar in the browser. So this is an area that you can organize your favorite content in Ableton. And that can include both Ableton content as well as third-party content. For example, in the synths area, you'll notice that I have both Ableton devices, and you can recognize them by this kind of icon, as well as third-party devices, which you'll notice that have different icons next to them. Now, if you want to add something to one of these collections, it's easy. And I'm missing one of my instruments. So I'm going to go into the Ableton instruments area, and you'll notice the Ableton instruments that I've added into the synths collection have these little red boxes next to them. And I want to also have analog in that collection. So with that selected, I'm going to hit the number that is associated with that collection. And since synths is the top one, it's number 1. Dynamics would be 2, EQ 3, and so on. So all I need to do is select one of these devices and then hit 1 on my computer keyboard. And you'll notice that it has now added that red box. And if I go to synths, I can see that analog is there at the top. Now, if I want to get rid of analog, again, all I need to do is hit the number 1 and it's gone. And if I go to dynamics and then come back to synths, analog is no longer there. But I do want it, so let's go back to instruments and let's quickly add it. So you can see that I have 6 different collections that I'm using. And there's actually 7 that are available. And you can show and hide those collections by going up next to the word collection and clicking the edit button that pops up when your cursor is hovering in that area. And now we can see that I've got these check boxes, and the ones that are showing have checks in those boxes to enable them, and the gray one down here at the bottom that I'm not using does not have a check in that checkbox. Now below that, you'll notice that you can also show and hide elements of the library. And again, all you have to do is click one of these checkboxes to either enable or disable being able to see that. Now I typically use, from time to time, all of those different categories in the library. So I'm going to leave those all visible. But you may or may not find the collections useful. And in my case, I do, because when I'm looking for an instrument, I don't want to have to go to just the instruments category for Ableton devices and then down into the plugins category and search through all that third-party stuff to find a synth there. So I like to be able to have mixed content up in this collections area so that I can go into synths. I can see all the ones that I use most often. Same thing in the dynamics area. I've got all my Ableton stuff that I use, as well as all the third-party stuff that I use. All right, continuing, let's talk a little bit about the location of your user library and the live packs that you've got installed on your computer. So you may not want to store those on your system drive. You may run out of room, or you may not want to have all that content on that drive. So if we go into the settings in Live, and that's going to be under the Live menu on a Mac or under the Options menu on a PC, and we go to the Library tab, you'll notice that we have this Content Locations area, and I can use this to move the default location of the user library and the packs to a different location. So yours probably says something different than what mine says here. But if you want to move yours, all you need to do is click the Browse button and then navigate through your Finder window to where you want to move that. And then once you've got the new location, click the Open button, and it'll take a few minutes and it will move all that content to the new location and sync it so that Ableton Live knows where it is. So I'm going to cancel out of there because I don't want to change the location because I've already moved both my user library and my live packs. All right, let's finish by taking a look at the templates category. So Ableton gives us a few templates that we can use to start new live sets. So for example, if I click on this Quick Start song, that opens up this template and allows me to start working on a new live set. Now in this case, I've got 4 tracks that have been named. And on my drum tracks, you'll notice that I've got, let's click that track. Yeah. So I can see that I've got different kits that are loaded down here that I can switch between. And I've got several clips that give me some different grooves already loaded. If I go over to the keys track, I can see that there's several different keyboard sounds that are located here. On the bass track, there's different bass sounds. And then on the vocal track, I can see that they've added some vocal plugins or plugins that will give me some EQ and compression and things like that for any vocals that I might record. Now, if you want to create your own, we can do that. Let's go up to the File menu and let's create a new live set. And then we could add plugins onto tracks here. We could rename the tracks. We could add reverbs and delays, and we could configure this. And then once we're happy with what we've got, to save this as a new template, all we need to do is go File, Save Live Set as Template. It automatically kicks us into the user library, and I can rename that. Let's call it EDM Template. And now I can either go into the user library and choose this template to start a set, or if I go into the templates category of the library, I can see that that EDM template is there as well. So now that you know how to customize the browser, take some time to configure it so that you can work comfortably and effectively.